Welcome to the Glenn Beck program. Great news from the CBO. They are now saying that by year's end, the federal debt will be 62% of the nation's economy. That's not immoral to do that to our children. No. That's the highest since just after World War II. Remember the history we gave you on 1946? We almost had a depression because there were some that didn't want to stop the government spending. We unleashed people and closed down many parts of the government. And look what happened in 46. Things skyrocketed. Here we are in the same position, and our president is on the road trying to explain that we're now seeing the fruits of all the government spending. Watch.
The problem is, number one, it's hard to argue sometimes things would have been a lot worse. Right? So people kind of say, yeah, but unemployment's still at 9.6. Yes, but it's not 12 or 13 or 15.
Yeah, it's not 70 either. Notice how everybody behind him scratching their heads. The audience are kind of like, excuse me. Because they're in Racine, Wisconsin, where unemployment for May was 14.2%. So they're like, yeah, really, it is kind of that crappy here, Mr. President. I have another theory why it's hard to argue, Barack. It's because history has shown us time and time again that federal spending does not work. Debt causes debt. It has failed in the 1930s. It's failed now in Europe. They're getting off it. And I know it will fail again. Europe knows it will fail again. You know it will fail again. The real question is, does he know it will fail again? And why is he still trying? Sometimes I think I should own stock in a company that makes duct tape so I could just wrap my head with duct tape, because I think every time I see the news, my head is going to explode. And sure, it won't stop my head from exploding. I don't think anything will at this point, but at least when I get to the hospital, I'll have all of the pieces in the duct tape. Our Karl Marx-loving administration is trying to spend our way out of this debt crisis. Debt works for only so long. We're about to send a progressive Supreme Court member in to unleash right there on the Constitution. Remember, progressives think the Constitution is outdated. It is an old document. And then there are stories also in the news, like this one out of Arlington High School up in Massachusetts. A student there named Sean Harrington noticed something odd. When he started going to class, there were no flags in the classroom. Nobody ever said the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, Sean decided to try to get the flags and put them back into the classroom and have students start, reciting the Pledge of Allegiance again. Seems like a pretty benign request to me, but not in Massachusetts. No. It's been this way now for years, and he's been working to change that for 3 years. It's a very controversial fight, getting American flags into classrooms. Yeah, I can see why that would just make people's heads explode. He finally got them to relent on the flags, but the pledge has been a different story. The principal, Charles Skidmore, finally agreed to lead the pledge, but not in class. In the foyer, he said, is where we should do it, if you wish to attend. Well, that wouldn't make anybody feel awkward at all. The school said, quote, the principal wanted to be very respectful about the pledge and be sensitive to the Supreme Court ruling that students are not forced to say the pledge. He wanted to be sensitive to a diverse group of students that they have. A diverse group of students? I mean, look, man, you don't want to say the pledge, that's your deal. Whatever. You can't stand there respectfully, quietly, while others do? You got to make everybody else leave so they can say that? I mean, what part of that diverse group of students, can't stand there silently? Really? How did we get to a place where we're even having this debate in this country? It's the Pledge of Allegiance. It's the flag. We didn't even have flags in classrooms? Really? I sat there this morning in my office and I was looking out the window and I was talking to my staff and I said, when did this country go insane? Did I miss it somehow? Or did we slip through a wormhole and we're in some parallel America that looks like the America that I used to live in, but something's wrong? Did we even have a tipping point in this country? Because I'm shocked. I didn't think I was the only one that felt this way about the flag or the Pledge of Allegiance. Where are all the people that are outraged by this? Is there anybody? The majority of people in America, do they find the Pledge of Allegiance offensive? Or is this a bogus tipping point? Who exactly is offended? I mean, look, you don't want to say the pledge? I know the roots of the Pledge of Allegiance. I got it. I got it. You don't want to say it? You don't say it. I'm not offended by that. The school originally rejected Harrington's request because, quote, some educators are concerned that it would be hard to find teachers willing to recite it. That's even worse. Really? Teachers that won't recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I mean, geez, call me crazy, and believe me, they do. Maybe it's time to start firing teachers. I mean, it's just me. What's the problem with this one? My 4-year-old recites the pledge, and I hope when she's 24 and 44 and 84, she's still saying the Pledge of Allegiance. This, dare I say, is one of the many, many reasons my kids are no longer in public school. I don't remember a time in my lifetime where America was so upside down. I remember going to school. In Mrs. Cole's class. She was my 2nd grade teacher. She was spooky. Mrs. Cole. And we would stand up and we would say the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't remember anybody being offended. I don't even get that. But it was a different time. It was a time in the summer when I would go out on my grandfather's farm and pick berries, and we had to work for everything that we had, and Levi's were $12, and you couldn't think of, I mean, if I would have come home with a pair of jeans that were all ripped and torn, the next morning I would have gotten up and my grandmother would have had them all patched. And then I would have said, Grandma, I paid extra money for the holes in the jeans. And then my grandfather would have said, what the hell is wrong with you? At my grandparents' house, they used to love Red Skelton. I don't know if you remember Red Skelton. He was an amazing man. I'm a fan of his old TV shows. There was one episode, I don't know if you have ever seen it, he recited the Pledge of Allegiance. It needs a little bit of updating, but I want to play it for you.
I, me, an individual, a committee of one, pledge, dedicate all of my worldly goods to give without self-pity, allegiance, my love and my devotion to the flag, our standard, Old Glory, a symbol of freedom. Wherever she waves, there's respect, because your loyalty has given her a dignity that shouts freedom is everybody's job. United. That means that we have all come together. States, individual communities that have united into 48 great states. 48
50 individual communities with pride and dignity and purpose, all divided with imaginary boundaries, yet united to a common cause. And that's love of country, of America. And to the republic, a state in which sovereign power is invested in representatives chosen by the people to govern. And government is the people, and it is from the people to the leaders, not from the leaders to the people, for which it stands, one nation. He said, so blessed by God, indivisible, incapable of being divided, with liberty, which is freedom and the right of power to live one's life without threats, without fear, or any sort of retaliation, and justice, the principle and quality of dealing fairly with others, for all. It means it's as much your country as it is mine. That's what he said. what happened to us? Was there a tipping point? Have we changed, or is this all an illusion? Some people will say there was a tipping point in our country in 1962 when the Supreme Court first ruled that a voluntary prayer at the start of each school day was unconstitutional because the court said it amounted to state sponsorship of prayer.